in the we have seen the video also that Satyagraha, Bharat, Arakshan, all these movies that you have worked with are...
I am sorry about all of them, by the way. Sincere apologies. I don't want to attack here. You verbally do it, but physically don't.
Most of the movies are coming up with some social issue or some social message. And we are talking about entertainment and all these things. When we see all these movies, rather than goody things and all these things, it's actually making the people think a lot. And it's coming up with a lot of issues as well as the messages and all that. So I was just wondering that while working with all these movies, was any mythological stories or like Rama and Mahabharata or any other things that influenced you to look out with this? Or any character?
Yeah. See, I would make a qualification here, my own assessment, honestly, about these 4 films that you mentioned, that the intention certainly was to bring in and address some social or political issue, of course. That's why I agreed to work on that. Jitha Prakash survived all 4 of Prakash. So he in fact accepted the idea that, yeah, reservation, we should do that. I'm afraid the intention in each of the cases never really got fulfilled. Okay, like Arakshan also collapses in the second half. Okay, Chakravarti was meant to be a much darker story about the whole innate, sort of self-sustainability of violence also I was talking about, while taking an honest view about social injustice. And etc. Satyagraha was meant to actually be a critique of the India against corruption movement. It ended up sort of becoming an apology for it. So, anyhow, it's also the reason why I'm now working alone. But in terms of the mythological influences, apart from the general sort of learning and the general affinity which I have towards mythology, in Rajniti, you know how it happened? I mean, if you're interested, that Prakash came to me with this thing in January 2004, saying I want to do a film on electoral politics in the Hindi heartland. So I said, what am I supposed to do about it? I mean, I have no clue about it, at the ground level. I mean, except as a newspaper reader and, whatever, some little bit of thinking. He said, no. I helped him with Gangajal as well as Aparna as a consultant. Gangajal uncredited because he forgot to give me credit. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But we got along well. So he came and he said, you need to do this. I said, I don't know anything about this, so please go away. So he said, no, please give me some time, let's try and work out a story. So I made a condition, I said 7 evenings I will sit with you after I finish my work. You will come to my house, 7:30 to 10 I will sit with you, and we'll try and have our story. If it works out, I will go ahead with it. Otherwise, you please go your way, I go my way. He said, okay, done. So we met in the evenings, we drank a lot of vodka, okay, and started brainstorming. And it starts, look at the organic way in which actually every story, if you look at it very deeply, and I'm not overstating this case, eventually starts resonating with some mythological situation or other. Not because mythology is a glorious storytelling medium, but because mythology deals with the depths of human nature. So you go to the depth, somewhere you find the resonance of the connection. And that automatically, I won't bore you with the entire experience, but because we started looking at conflict, drama, fight for electoral power, and groups and not individuals, and loyalties, and maybe the same origins, and suddenly on the 3rd day I told you that the Prakash, yeah, ये तो महाभारत जैसा लग रहा है, family है, and he said, I said then maybe we should take a call whether we want to pursue this or we need to be so-called original and all that. He said, नहीं यार, आप तो खुश होंगे because he knows I am passionate. So then it became conscious. Not conscious, but I would say it became a parallel track that actually as I was constructing the Mahabharata sort of narrative and its situations was parallelly playing in my mind. Okay, which was beautiful. And then whatever became necessary here got pulled in. So it wasn't that I designed the story based on the Mahabharata, but I in fact designed a story in which very naturally, in a very organic way, the situations which were relevant to our story from the Mahabharata got pulled in. So therefore there were only 2 sons, Arjun and Thing. And a lot of mythologists gave me a lot of flack. I said what I did is I took an interpretation of Arjun, but it is an interpretation of Arjun. It's a darker interpretation because of his experience with the Kurukshetra war, and we had this debate. It didn't get completed. But there again, it was that Arjun, on the eve of the war, tells Krishna, I don't want to fight. These are my sins. These are all my people. To hell with the land and to hell with the sui ki nok barabar, bullshit. I don't want. Thank you very much. Humko nahi karne ka, main ja raha hu. And Krishna, of course, in a very wise way, explains to him about the karma, etc. You are a soldier of a cause, blah blah blah. Correct. Now he goes into fight. And you look at the situations that he goes through. He kills Bhishma with Chalkapat. Shikhandi ke piche chhoot ke maar raha hai. Much as you might say that Krishna said, take blame on me, etc. The fact that he did it, he killed his grandfather by cheating, by dishonesty. First by going and asking him, भैया आपको कैसे मालूम है? तो बोले मैं औरत वो है पहना हुई है उसका हाथ नहीं उठावा आप फैंटास्टिक चलो औरत के लिए चुका उसके बाद Drone gets killed because of the lies which they utter. It was Vishnu who killed him, but it was his speech. Did he go and kill Vishnu? No. He stopped himself. But the fact is, it did benefit his war effort. Number 3, Jayadratha. How was Jayadratha killed? Again, because of some good, wonderful, clever things that Krishna did. He would have been lost. So the Neymar Maharaj, why did Krishna have to intervene? Because he was not able to do that. Which means he would have had to kill himself. So he benefited from that cheating. And last and the worst is Karna. The Karna is down on his knees. He is bleeding with it. Okay. This guy said, because that guy says, what about Abhimanyu? So you are allowing yourself to get emotionally swayed and you are destroying the rules of war. Now you tell me, and my interpretation came in here, what if Arjun had actually begun to revel in that? You get liberated from your more moral restrictions, etc. The initial euphoria sometimes of a person who newly discovers dishonesty is a one of freedom. मतलब झूठ बोल के काम कर सकता है. अरे this is damn good, yeah. This is very easy. I mean, I'm making a bit of a caricature in my sort of tonality. I'm looking at it very seriously. That Arjun, somewhere the darkness entered his soul, the demons were unleashed. And now I had an interpretation that Arjun didn't want to enter the war precisely because he instinctively knew. Okay, if I go in, because he was an ambitious man. Arjun is the most ambitious character in the Mahabharata, correct? But his thumb was cut. Did he go on hunger strike? No, he was all right. When the sun went down and Karna could not challenge him during the thing, he was all right. When Bhim said to Karna, get out of the contest because you are a low-born, etc., he didn't have the valor to say, I want to fight him. So somewhere that ambition had also made him vulnerable, as the Gita says, your need make you vulnerable. So I'm saying that became the interpretation, which was a shift, which is what people trust. And the second thing is that the Rajniti ends on a very sour note. I mean, you don't know who to support. Who did right, who did wrong? So तूने कौन सा अच्छा काम किया इस तरीके से काम करके तूने I mean, you destroyed so many lives. That Ranveer character, Samarpata. I mean, Katrina's life. I mean, the Hindu Draupadi, she loved you, she depended on you, played with her. But there's somewhere that so-called cause, family, etc., which was very reminiscent to me of the darkness of the Arjun character. Therefore, at the end of it, when Devdas did say, he said, Mahabharata is uplifting. I said, really? You show me any upliftment? It is very, very enriching. It gives you a deep understanding of life. It's the best story in the world. I love it. But don't tell me it's uplifting. It was victory of good over here. Boss, I think it's much more complex than that. You know, where you finally cannot distinguish. At some point when you go to the depths of your unconscious, what for you call the id, there is no distinction. There is no morality there. There is only a desire for fulfillment. And that's what, in that sense, Mahabharata takes us down to in the Kurukshetra war. And that's the reality. Sorry, it's an elaborate answer to your other simple question.
Now, one question. Staying with Rajniti, which are the two mythological characters you have taken for Nana Patekar? One is obviously Krishna.
It was only Krishna. People said it may even be Bhishma.
Because when I saw it for the third time, I saw two different characters being played at two. No, Bhishma was another character I saw.
Yeah. See, because he occupied a slightly venerable position in the family, which is why the thing, but even Krishna did actually. So, see, his name is Brij Gopal.
Yeah.
Which was clearly, taken from, Brij and Gopal and come on. So, no, I'm sorry, I really didn't have Bhishma in my mind at all. Much as I adore Bhishma, and I also have a qualified sort of view of Bhishma's coldness. Frankly, that's why
he behaves
complete uneasiness with women.
No, he behaves in a very cold.
Krishna had a very, very uncomfortable marriage. I mean, he destroyed, I mean, he hurt all the women who came into contact with him, you know. Including, that's why the oath, corrective oath. I mean, he takes the oath, I mean, corrective. You won't have been able to deal with him. You have no idea about the femininity, you know,
And how would you compare the interpretation of Mahabharata as what you and Prakash made it and what Shashi Kapoor made it in Kaliyug? Shyam Benegal and Shashi Kapoor.
I saw Kaliyug very recently, I think about a couple of years ago. I hadn't seen it earlier at all. I don't know, I found the relocation, the transplantation, so to say, the adaptation in the industrial context quite intelligently done. But I sort of felt it lost out on the visceral power, the visceral strength of the characters of the Mahabharata, the conflict of the Mahabharata. It was a little suave, I felt. So I'm afraid also I had problems with the narrative structure. Like, you know, usko leke I think I already felt a little sort of put off. I found it a bit dated. Maybe that's why it didn't work. But I believe that if I had seen it in 1978 or whenever it was 80 or whenever it came out, I'm sure it must have appealed to me much, much, much more. So that, see, Rajniti again is not an entirely faithful thing. It's not so much an adaptation as almost like a reimagination or a reinterpretation of that. I don't know, that's all I have to sort of say about that.
From a perspective of that if you were, when just going back, if you were the other side party, and according to you, why did he have chosen, Raja Harishchandra as the character? Because there were several mythological characters. But while the economics or, kind of the other, settles balance, everything else remaining constant. Why was the choice of Raja Harishchandra? Because
I can only speculate.
Yeah.
I'll try and be intelligent in my speculation. See, one, I feel there was a devil condition, and this is not a lot of conversations with the filmmakers, where their view of mythology is actually that of a message, a moral message. If mythology क्यों है? इससे लोग सीखने को मिलता है. राम, मर्यादा, पुरुषोत्तम, etc. राम की तरह बनो, मजा आया. But you can't do that. I mean, Ram, you have to recognize Ram as a human being who had enormous challenges. It's not like a message. So therefore, Mahabharata also is like a message. So therefore, I'm saying mythology is treated as that, morality is a morality play. So that was one thing, and therefore, I think it's quite likely that Sahib Phalke may have at that time felt. See, firstly, myths were available to the ready-made stories. And that actually did a lot of damage to the later generations of screenwriters and cinema, because screenplay never really got paid attention to, because they just lifted the story, inserted dialogue, and there it went, and we lost out on the screenplay. Very few people in India actually know how that screenplay, but we're still trying very hard to make sure that people learn. So वो उसके अंदर ये था कि एक सत्यवादी, आदर्शवादी कि भैया अपने उसूलों को लेके वो देखो क्या कुछ कर देता है. It's dramatically strong and it has a fantastic message. कि भैया सच्चाई के ऊपर सब कुर्बान है, etc. So it's quite likely that he chose it because of that. There was a certain simplicity also to it. It's a very clear drama. Strictly Rasool, one by one you give up those things, eventually they come back to you because you think actually is a moral thing. It's a very, very simply structured narrative, which at that time I think appealed to him.
And what's your Jani Dunya? Because that also has a set of Mahabharata characters. Like
that was just used more as a farce.
Yeah, but I can say your view on in terms of using it.
Oh no, beautifully. Very, very cleverly done. Can't stop laughing. I will cult film. So in the end also Shan, Garai, Bheem and Draupadi and Mujhe Chahiye, oh man, riot. Kundan was, seldom has a better comedy come out of India than that. But why don't I also draw your attention to that? See Roja.
Yes.
Yeah? Roja is based on a myth. It draws all its power from a myth. See, you didn't realize it, but it appealed to you because in our psyche it is embedded. It's based on the Satyavan and Savitri myth. You see where she pulled Satyavan back from the jaws of death. Not jaws of death, beyond death. And she won't give up, and she's a very spunky woman. Just that construct, it's deeply embedded in us because of mythology, regardless of whether you're conscious or not. That yes, that when we love somebody, we don't let them go. That is a very mythical, it is a very deep sort of aspiration of all of us. We wish we could be that loyal. He draws so much power from that. And Mani, crafted it rather well. The politics I thought was very, very questionable, very, very simplistic.
The last part where Ashish is trying to it's very marvelous and I follow my colleagues how to say that.
No, it's what they showed here or
The real
in Victoria.
And what I was saying that particular scene was ahead of its time. When it was possibly short time because they've never seen that kind of a scene where negative characters actually kind of successfully trying to influence a positive character and so powerful. So if you have comments on that.
I think you're overstating it by saying ahead of its time and all that. It was not ahead of its time or anything. But yes, our whole idea, see, the first script that I wrote. Govind and I met very accidentally. Where we met? In Samovar. You know what? Yesterday Govind called me and he said, we keep reading that Amit and Jaya, Bachchan and his wife, met there. So many people have such nostalgia about it. He says, you remember where we met? We met in Samovar. So he said, before it shuts down, why don't we go once, just out of sentiment, to relive our first meeting. So I'm going with it. And the person who introduced us there. So Govind had this thing about the whole terror. The story was more or less what is there. We bumped into each other in Samovar. Okay, we started talking. And I was not a scriptwriter at that time, but I got interested. And we realized that we were talking in similar ways. And because we had, then later, much later, we realized that that's because we had just read the same book. So it was very much in our minds, called Life in Silence. Very, very good book. So he gave me the script. Now there what happened is, coming to what you were saying, is that I approached it psychologically. So the script didn't work, which is why he asked me to sort of rewrite it. Because the main character was just too perfect. I said, a person like this who's so competent and intellectually so strong that he cracks people, just by words. I said, he won't crack so easily. You don't say family pressure, etc. Boss, he's a cop man. He's imagined this nightmare 1,000 times and he's ready for it psychologically. What else cracks him? So I turned him into a flawed character who had certain basic fault lines inside of him. And as a result of which, I said, let's turn it around, where what he thought he was very good at and competent with, बिना हाथ लगाए सामने वाले को crack कर देना, सामने वाला उसको crack कर देना. The person opposite turns out to be intellectually much stronger and much superior. Govind told me that I had Ada because he told me, yaar, he's a villain. I said, but he's a formidable villain. The person who's an intellectual terrorist, he's not a Lallu Panju, he's not Sadajiv Amrapurkar or somebody who's bombastic. He's very, very careful and he's very strong. And suddenly Ompuri finds himself in shh. I have opened my cards that this guy is not strong. Now what do I do? So it was that because of my psycho upbringing, that I said we need to look at some psychological play. It is going like the idea. So that's why it went on.
Marxism.
In the sense, just final. What is the possibility of Indian cinema when it comes to right now when we look at mythology? In cinema or television, we just fixated with Ramayana and Mahabharata. Why has there not been an exploration, a deep exploration into our tradition, go deep or find this? You're bringing stories, and that's what we have learned in this class over here. And why has that not been happening?
To add to this, my question is saying, if the Hollywood makes some Greek mythology or the audience or as a filmmaker, we accept it. But no Indian cinema maker explore this area as an Indian mythology. Is the audience are not ready to accept?
No, I don't think it's the audience at all. I will take you to the lady's comment that when in Hollywood, still because of the narrative finesse and the narrative caliber which is developed in terms of the screen craft, there is a certain level at which they pitch it, they mount it, they play it out. Not that it always works. So it does sort of, it becomes very appealing, very attractive. Here, firstly, we don't have the budgets and the resources to be able to mount it in that way, because you do require a Titanic sort of, presentation. Secondly, is that we turn it into a very simplistic thing. Okay, we dumb it down. And we try again with morality play, and earlier there used to be bombastic dialogue and stuff. There are Mahabharats have been made, Ramayana also been made. Try watching that. If you complete the film, I'll give you a medal. The earlier versions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So what we do is we also dump it down. It's very tacky in its thing. We try to replicate it. It's cinema. You need to be able to adapt it to this medium and to this kind of rhythm. You can't merely lift chunks and put them in here. It's a very clumsy kind of, formulation of that. And as far as exploration is concerned, I'm sorry to say this, but there's also a lot of laziness, intellectual laziness, which is responsible for it, which is going away. You will see good times coming into Indian cinema, take my word for it, in the next 5 to 10 years, because a crop of very bright young people are coming in. And it's not only independent cinema, even mainstream cinema. They will come in and they will do good work. I deal with students and young people all the time. But until then, to take material from a literary or an existing source was considered a big, arduous, daunting task. Dhokal ke baad, Kache Dhage and Gulam and Kache Dhage came my way and so those are bad times. I didn't know how to write, but I got a lot of offers. So इसके अंदर ये हुआ कि I in fact had located a book which was copyright free, so you didn't have to pay for that. And I took it to, I loved it, so I took it to one producer, big producer at that time. I said, he said, यार ये literature अंदर जी आप मत लाइए, ये सब intellectual बात मत करो इधर यार, ये entertainment है, हिंदी film audience में नहीं है समझ. I said, कहानी है, he said, पर ये सब वो literature कहानी है. So they themselves, because they were right. So they felt that this would make it some abstract kind of thing. I said, what do you think, sir? And you think I would, take this and start printing the pages on the screen for people to read? He said, people find it very difficult to understand. They are writing a screenplay based on that. They are not going to print the pages on the screen seen by the other. That's not my idea of, making a film. They just don't allow. Why are people running after that pages today? Because 3 years we can make it. Okay, because suddenly, there are people looking at, Amir and others are beginning to look at. Now everyone wants an adaptation. Everyone wants an adaptation. It's also a good thing. There might be a knee-jerk commercial sort of reaction, but it's encouraging a lot of people to explore those sources. And I do hope that they will also go to traditional sources. There are folk tales, there are millions of folk tales in this country. And they've lasted the test of time, which means that there is some dramatic relevance to them. All you have to do is like what Mani did. Tap into the nucleus of that energy and then actually recontextualize it and boom, you go. Ready-made energy is that. I don't care about your politicians, I don't care about 15, 20 cops, I don't care. I want my husband back. That's it. Just the positions of that character wears down the system and eventually the rise to that. I'm saying apart from politics, which are big issues, but that's the core story. And it was allowed, it was earned. The first half in Roja, you remember? And they went to misunderstanding. So Mani was pretty fine craftsman and good times and others. Most people can't take criticism. I hated what he did in Ravana. It was such a beautiful chance to talk about a triangle where you have an honorable person there who loves you but he won't touch you until you want him and he didn't do anything and yet you're being accused. But I thought this was a movie I really waited for.
Be happy for the year learning the theories of mythology. We now have a practitioner with us who uses mythology, and it was a very exciting lecture. Also the fact that we were understanding what goes behind the scenes, and we are very happy the way you portrayed the whole story, revealed to us the thing of Rajniti. Thank you so much for spending your time.
Such little time, there was so much more that I didn't even come to my questions. There was a lot which I wanted to also share with you. But if you want to, I would love to come. And if any of you would like to remain in touch, I can put down my email and everything.
And if it's possible, all of us would like to attend your lectures or seminars and see your
workshops anywhere?
I'll share my email ID.
Sure.
Akhilesh has it, and hopefully this will bring him back to class. It is
I just ended the first one and he left.
Yeah, now he's
Sunil has my
email ID. So I can get some, we can be in touch. And if there's an opportunity to meet again, I'd like to, and those of you who would like to perhaps come for any of the things which I do, classes or workshops, etc., to let me know, and I'll tell you what I do. So based on that, you can choose. And if you want to attend my classes within the course also, you're welcome, you can come as my guest. But otherwise, I also do 5-day intensive screenwriting workshops, which are essentially meant to train initially at least the aspiring and new screenwriters. And got a lot of guests, people whose work you admire, people like Vishal, Sriram Raghavan, Vallabh Fellow, Hitesh Batra from Lunchbox. I'm doing one at the end of April. So anybody who's interested and you can spare 5 days, welcome. Yeah, so write to me.
Thank you.